Hey, what's going on, friends? King of Chaos Logan Black joining you after a not so lengthy break for another week of Dude, have you heard this? The wrestling, not wrestling, not at all. I do wrestling on Wednesdays, but on Fridays it's music. It's a music roundtable show where a bunch of friends sit around and get to chat about some of our favorite under the radar albums. With us, as always, two guys from the world of wrestling. This is why I'm getting confused here. Scotty Cerriti and Johnny Torres. How are you guys doing this week?
What's going on, everybody? Good to see you guys.
Very excited.
And another wrestling connection. Joining us for the first time this week, my friend and yours, Kirby Wackerman. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
We're stoked for this. This was a really, really fun week. I'm just gonna jump right into things because, man, I enjoyed everything so much this week, and I just want to lay it all out there and talk all about this fun stuff. We're gonna start with my man Johnny Torres's pick because he picked what I feel is a classic album that too many people do not know is a classic album. Go for it, Johnny.
It's funny, man, when we talk about like under the radar albums, that falls into a couple different categories. There's the ones that people just didn't hear for whatever reason, and then there's the ones that people heard and just didn't get the love that, a lot of us really feel like it deserved. And AFI's Crash Love falls hard into that. Lots of people did listen to it and just got this widely panned review at the same time. It wasn't at the time what they were looking for, because at the time they were so stuck on Art of Drowning, Sing the Sorrow, that anything beyond that, they just weren't willing. Like December Underground got buried on the internet because it just wasn't in any way, shape, or form what they were looking for. But when you really carve through December Underground, which led up to Crash Love, you start getting the idea that AFI has so much more muscle to flex in their songwriting and their presentation overall. And December Underground was this awesome pilot project to that. And then Crash Love, to me, is just where it comes full freaking circle. We've talked about this, Logan, a number of times about that AFI Gallows tour. Well, that was the Crash Love tour.
Yeah,
And so that to me was everything, the production, the music, everything came together. And AFI just like etched themselves into the history of like punk bands that could also slaughter arena rock anytime they want. Because, I mean, the measure to me is a good arena rock band is when you're listening to it, how many times do you hear the chorus and can immediately picture all the stage lights just immediately going white at the same time on the crowd? You can see it. I can see it. But the whole record to me, front to back, is just complete magic. And at the time, you're like, this might be the peak of AFI. But then you can continuing on past it. They just continue to get better and experiment more. And I don't know if they'll ever truly peak. They'll continue to be on another level. Track by track, I think this front to back is a masterpiece. But yeah, you guys go for it because I can talk all day.
I was gonna say Henry Rollins had famously, and I'll butcher the quote, but I'll paraphrase, talked about how punk fans are amongst like the worst grouping of fandom in the world because once a band learns to play their instruments, they're no longer liked by like punks. It's like, like you wrote a song that was more than 2 minutes long. There's like, not a power. This is like a bar chord in here. What? Like you're like adding things and arpeggiating. This band, I will forever sing the praises of this band. But I want to jump into everyone else before I just gleam AFI. Kirby, what did you think of Crash Love?
Well, I was one of those guys who I was a young kid really when Sing the Sorrow came out and then December Underground, and I think I had already jumped ship with Sing the Sorrow, but I was so into Art of Drowning. So I missed out on this record. I missed out on December Underground, and I was kind of blown away by this record. Obviously, it's a lot bigger and covers a lot more terrain, as sort of I expected that going into it. But so many of these songs just start so huge in the way that songs on Sing the Sorrow do. They have these huge epic riff intros. But the first thing that struck me was a lot of these riffs that Jade Puget starts songs with have not that like ripping laser beam buzzsaw distortion sound from the Mesa Boogie sound, but like this crystalline, glassy Vox sound, almost like a British voice distortion, and it just sounds so good. It's so I don't know. It's almost like a mystical sound that like Beautiful Thieves, second track on the album, just the way that song opens, that sound on that riff is so good. And also End Transmission does that same thing for me. That is almost like a surfy British amp sounding Days of the Phoenix opening riff. It has that same sort of cadence. So this is an album, an AFI album that doesn't have that signature AFI like short intro track, but they come out swinging in all of these tracks. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you brought this to the table, Johnny, because I probably would have never gotten around to this record. So thank you.
Oh yeah.
Man, you hit it with Beautiful Thieves. I think when Johnny was talking about like that arena rock, man, like literally everything you explained. Like when I saw that Gallows AFI tour and they played that song, that's the once that chorus kicks in, that's that white light on the crowd, man. That yeah, the so many different sounds, such excellent productions, all in my notes. Scotty, what did you think of Crash Love?
First thing I was going to say was how clean this record is. This is like really like top notch when you consider everything AFI has done in their career. This is definitely the best sounding record. It's definitely the most well written. You guys knew what they were doing with this one, and I think it's probably the best post Art of Drowning record that they've released. Veronica Sawyer Smokes, of course, Beautiful Thieves, as we mentioned, all just anthems front to back.
So Kirby brought up Jade Puget as the guitarist. So he wasn't the original guitarist for AFI, but was brought in, I believe, for Art of Drowning. That was his first record with them, I'm pretty sure, and then did Sing the Sorrow. So you see the band start to evolve, and obviously all bands are going to evolve if they kind of, want to not just be playing the same three chords. But I will give Jade the same credit that I'll give to Travis Barker for Blink-182 in saying there's a band member that adds so much to the band in such a way that that band could not have been as big as they were without that person. I always say Travis fattened out Blink-182 sound, so they did not sound like a SoCal punk band. They sounded like a band that was ready for arenas. Jade was outside the box. Everyone was painting in that one corner of the picture. Jade opened it up and was like, let's paint all the way out here. And I think him and Davey together are like among the best songwriters in alternative music ever. Like that's a pairing that was like set in stone in the stars, which doesn't make any sense, but fuck it. We're talking about music.
And it's a one guitar band.
Right.
It's amazing.
And it's how fucking good that dude is at just making those sounds work. You guys mentioned Veronica Sawyer Smokes, which I think, like, the first time I ever heard that song, it kicked me in the chest, and every time since it has done the same. But another one that I haven't heard you guys mention, which I still think is among their top 10 best written songs, is Darling, I Want to Destroy You. What a singy chorus, man. Just like, boom. Again, one guitar pulling all that sound out. Absolutely brilliant stuff. I love this record so much, and for me to gloat on this as high as I possibly would for December Underground, which I think is the best record that they've ever put out. Fuck the old stuff, as great as it is. December Underground is fucking brilliant. But I will put this one as a very, very close to it. With that said, we've given some ratings to this album. I'm going to start with you, Johnny, because it was your pick. What did you rate Crash Love?
Oh man, 9.5 out of 10 spray painted gold sets of jeans.
Kirby, what did you rate this one?
I'm gonna give it 8 out of 10 slightly more tasteful eyeliner jobs.
Brilliant. Scotty.
9 out of 10 emo kids in Arctic Monkeys t-shirts.
Yeah, I gave this one 9 out of 10 band members that all make me swoon. Anybody else with some questions, comments, or feelings about Crash Love before we move on? Cool. So we move on now to Kirby's pick. Lay it on us, man, because I had never heard this record or this band prior to you picking this out. So tell us why you chose this record and give us some details.
Okay, yeah. So the Loved Ones like dropped this record and then pretty much disappeared. Dave House was like a roadie for the Bouncing Souls and like gave a tape to Fat Mike or something, and then immediately got signed, put out this record, and then basically they've done nothing until 2015 when they had like a 10-year anniversary tour, so like for this record. And when this record came out, I was super into it. It came out at the same time on the same label, Fat Wreck, as I think Oh Calcutta, Lawrence Arms, which is just like a seminal, dad punk record now. Like it's dad punk now, and I thought for sure that they were going to be huge and keep going, as the Lawrence Arms are still going strong. It sounds this record sounds like it could be a record that the Lawrence Arms or the Menzingers put out in like the last couple years. Like it hits all those notes. But this was it. This is all they gave us, and it's great. It's bopping mid-tempo pop punk, and I love it. Keep going back to it.
You know what, man? I gotta say, like, again, this is my first experience with the record. There is no, well, actually, no, I wouldn't say there's no. There's one break kind of halfway through. It takes, the tempo goes a little bit low, but this is relentless for the entire way through. They just go and go and go and go and go. And I'm sitting there and I wrote down, does not relent for the first 5 tracks. Then my next, doesn't relent for the first 6 tracks. And then one break and keeps going. And you got to give credit when bands just put that kind of energy out there. That was really enjoyable. But I want to get everyone else's thoughts on this. Scotty, what did you think of The Loved Ones?
I really like this album. It does sound like a Metzinger's record if you listen to it from a certain mindset. It's very strange to find a Fat Wreck band that doesn't have a lot of longevity. So having this one record mystifying to me, that it's the one Fat Wreck band that just couldn't keep up with the label itself. But it definitely sounds like, a record of guys who knew what they were going to do next. So it's kind of disappointing. We'll never get to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have their shit together on this. Like, they sound like a very, very well put together group. Johnny, how do you feel about The Loved Ones?
So it's funny. This is one that like came across my radar just on Spotify recommended. Like whenever I'd listen to I'd pop into the Menzingers artist, or I'd pop into the Gaslight Anthem artist. Like they would be one of the recommended ones in other artists. So once this came up, I'm like, I know I'm gonna like all of this because this has been recommended by like all my favorite bands. And like, sure enough, front to back, loved it. And then I looked into the band more. And then I realized, like, oh, the Dave House, and like I know Dave House's solo material, and so I'm like, oh, okay, so that's where this dude came from. He didn't just drop out of nowhere. So it was kind of cool to make that connection eventually. But yeah, as Jake said, this is just like for the most part, front to back, just strong in your face. But as Kirby said, I'm really happy Kirby introduced dad punk to this show as a term. Now we could add that to the official lexicon. But yeah, a lot of love for this front to back. It was something that I just knew I was gonna like, and it was one of those where you just popped into the ellipsis of Spotify and just dropped to an existing playlist because front to back, I was just like, I love all of this. This all needs to come with me everywhere.
Yeah, this was a really, really fun one, man. You get used to, especially when it comes to just anything else that I listen to during the week when I'm not taking in this stuff. And it's all, just stuff that I put on repeat. And getting some new stuff always can take a bit of getting used to. But this was, again, that energy made it really easy to jump in. Dad punk, craft rock, whatever you want to call it, I get that sound. I understand where it is, and I think at this point I'm old enough to kind of enjoy it. I think in 2006 I probably would have hated this and would have not given a damn. In fact, I even wrote down, I'm pretty sure that I heard Benson and Hedges on a Punk-O-Rama or a Fat Music of some sort. I definitely heard that on a compilation somewhere. And I probably didn't pay any mind to it because, 2006 I'm sitting there and I'm just like some angsty douchebag, just wanting to listen to everybody fighting, just the sounds of violence. But this is a really, really funny, again, high energy, really fun. Living Well was another song that stuck out to me. But we gave this record some ratings. So I want to go with you, Kirby. What did you rate your choice of The Loved Ones?
I'm going to give this one of my all-time favorite records, 9 out of 10 tasteful newsboy hats that cover your bald spot.
Oof. That is, Kirby's killing it already with these, killing it, man. Scotty, what'd you give this one?
9 out of 10 flannels match to Converse.
To be honest with you, I was looking for flannels this week. I could not find any in my size. Swole dude problems, it happens. But I don't know any cons either. Johnny, what did you rate this one?
Because we always have to bring up flannels whenever we talk about craft rock dad punk. It's going to be 8 out of 10 flannel shirt plaid scarf combos.
Oh, nice. 'Tis the season.
So I'm going the opposite direction. I'm not going towards the dad side. I'm going towards the young people who would have bought into this. I gave this record 7 out of 10. Hot Topic, one more time. 7 out of 10 Hot Topic sampler CDs, free with the purchase of $50 or more. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings about The Loved Ones? Sweet. Let's move on to Scotty's pick. He is going. It seems to be a trend here. Scotty, lay it on us.
So I'm again revisiting an older pick, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Henry's Dream, their 7th album released in 1992. That Nick Cave hates. Does not like the production of this record because the producer who had previously worked with Neil Young preferred live in the studio recording over overdubs and double tracking and things of that nature. But I think this is some of the strongest writing that has been on a Nick Cave record before. Maybe not since, because a lot of his newer stuff really hits hard lyrically. And I think the music is great. It's some of his most violent music, which is weird because a majority of it is acoustic. But Papa Won't Leave You, Henry, Christina the Astonishing, Jack the Ripper, all some of my favorite Bad Seed songs of all time. So I love this record with all my heart.
Yeah, man, I gotta keep saying this because you have been my only opening into the world of Nick Cave. There is no way in my brain that this guy is not writing Broadway plays. There's no way he's not writing scores for Broadway. This one more than the other one, but this really reads to me like a Broadway soundtrack. But that could also just be that I'm a massive theater kid in my heart, and that will never go away. But I want to get your guys' opinion on it. Johnny, what did you think about Nick Cave?
There's just a different class of songwriters that some guys fall into where they at some point it stops being a song and it starts being a whole atmosphere, a whole room's worth of vibe. There's a couple, only a handful of people you think of, but every time Nick Cave comes up, I always seem to draw the parallel to Leonard Cohen just because I get that same, I don't get that feeling that comes over me from any other songwriter when I listen to a Nick Cave record besides Leonard Cohen. And I think the common thread there is that regardless of how much or how little production or instrumentation or anything they put into it, they can still get you to where they want you to be atmospherically. They can be as dark, as violent, as sad, as lonely, as depressed, or they can make you feel like you're in a room full of people if they want to. There's nobody else like them, and they'll forever be bonded in that regard to me. And this, now that I've gotten, a couple Nick Cave albums under my belt, and I've just been able to draw that thread more and more, like this just really like layered on top of it, and it adds to some of my like favorite stuff that I've ever heard. John Finn's Wife was unbelievable. Had to run that back a couple times just because, like, wow, like that was especially Cohen-esque of like, how do you even think about writing stuff like this? Like, where does the idea come from? I'll never understand it, and I'll continue to appreciate it. And I, front to back, it's just, I have like a Nick Cave playlist now. Like, so shout out Scotty, thank you. Yeah, very special record.
Yeah, man, I put down that the first 4 tracks are just straight fire, and like, I didn't listen to them for a second time. Like, I listened to all 4 like twice as a grouping, because it was just one after the other, just kind of, again, like it was Broadway, just one into the other, and was just it was killer. Again, drop kick to the chest. Kirby, what'd you think about Henry's Dream?
Okay, so this is my first exposure to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds outside of like their huge presence in the Peaky Blinders television series, and I can see sort of why they have that huge presence in the show, because this is like a completely narrative project. This is like a storytelling album front to back. I kept like Googling stuff to try to find out if this is secretly a concept record and what it is and what story is overall being told here. But yeah, it's like the storytelling is in the lyrics, but it's also really cultivated in Nick Cave's voice and the character of his vocal presentation. It shifts. He's like this dark, like Tales from the Crypt narrator through all of it. It really feels like narration rather than front manning, which I guess are two sides of the same coin. The acoustic attack in the first 2 tracks, especially in the first track, is just so aggressive and so punk. Even though it's acoustic guitars, it really makes me wonder what the impact on like gypsy punk and folk punk bands that were cool much later might be. I think of a band that's kind of nationally known but is local sort of to me and Johnny between us, Bella's Bartok, and how almost the chords don't matter. It's the percussive attack on the instrument, the bang of the strings. It's just there's something that you feel that you don't get from an electric guitar, or that hits differently. The standout for me was when I first came to town, because when I got over the the adrenaline rush of the first couple of tracks, it's just like dread started to set in at that point, and it was like I was swept into what I perceived as a narrative. But I didn't know the story, so I just started getting this feeling of something awful is happening or going to happen in this story that I don't understand. So thank you, Scotty, for bringing this to me. I'm gonna take some time to listen to some other stuff as a result from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
I prefer this one to the other album, and maybe it's because I don't have like a connection to the person or the music in general. Just listening to this really had the connection. And I also wanted to say, like, again, art in general for me is always just moods. Like, it's always about moods. And I don't feel like I was in the mood to properly appreciate this album this week, but I still fucking loved it. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like to go back to this at some point, listen to it all again when like I'm really in the mood to pull this together and just be like blown away by it. This was again top-notch choice in my opinion. Just yeah, I mean we just keep saying it, like it just has, Johnny said, with the atmosphere, and Kirby said it with the acoustics, just like everything put together, it just creates such a feeling and a mood that just goes beyond what I feel is like the goal of art in general. And like you listen again, we're a bunch of dudes who all listen to punk rock, so we know that like hey, we could enjoy 2 minutes of just screaming and fun, but then there's also that option of just like, what is this shit making you feel? And I feel like the 2-minute punk rock songs aren't doing that as much as something like this, where it just letting you sit down and it grounds you and it makes you absorb what the message is trying to put across. So this one I thought was really dope. Loved it. And we have some ratings for it. So Scotty, I'm going to start with you. Let us know what you gave Henry's Dream.
9 out of 10 angry acoustic guitar leads.
Johnny.
8 out of 10 all black suits with a black shirt, a black tie, and a black fedora hat.
Oh, the hat.
Mine's not too different. I have 8.5 out of 10 theater kids in black trench coats.
Jeez, we're all on the same notes. I got 8 out of 10 spooky gypsy punks hopping off trains in their long dark jackets.
Oh man, this really did, Scotty. This created that mood where all of us felt the same. It's rare, and I give the credit where credit is due. This album certainly, like, I feel like, again, if I listened to it on a different day or a different week, I'd have had a different reaction to it. But I think it's incredible that everyone here, for listening to this one for the first time, all had the same takeaway from it. I think that speaks quite a bit to Nick's songwriting. Really dope stuff. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
One thing I thought of.
Go right ahead.
Johnny mentioned thinking or being reminded of Leonard Cohen by Nick Cave, and I was reminded similarly of Warren Zevon. Like there's not a lot of sonic stylistic overlap. It's presentational overlap. Like there's something in the method that says narrative songwriter. Even if you don't catch what the narrative actually is, there's something about narrative presentation that is just recognizable.
I can definitely understand that perspective. Anybody else with anything to add? Sweet. So we're going to close out with my pick for the week. I chose The Lost Notebooks of Hank Williams by various artists. Excuse me. So, again, I sit here and I talk about punk rock all the time. I usually am wearing the shirts, but today I'm advertising a comic book shop. I talk about punk all the time, but I am a huge, huge fan of classic country music. I think, in my opinion, the most punk rock shit in the universe are all the old country musicians. They were all poor, trashy rebels who were just like menaces to society. Again, I would put Hank Williams and his like just laundry list of demons up against Sid Vicious or Darby Crash or any of them, to be totally honest. And that's just, to me, that's something that I could appreciate about these guys, is that, while, I don't want my musicians dead at 29 years old like Hank, I certainly can appreciate the fact that they spoke from the heart and lived it. All the drug talk, all the heartbreak, all the everything. This is all shit Hank was dealing with because he was a drugged, drunken womanizer. Makes for beautiful music. And this record, the story behind it, I'm going to try and speed that up real quick, is at some old recording studio, or just a regular recording studio, a janitor or somebody who was cleaning up found like this notebook and was just like, all right, whatever, I'm going to hold on to it. And then looked into it and was like, oh, it was a notebook full of Hank Williams songs that he never recorded. And then he sold it and made bank, to a record label, and that label was like, we're just gonna have a whole bunch of artists come in, take the lyrics and kind of compositions, and make it their own. And I mean, this really is in terms of like, I guess like music in general. There's just like so much going on here. I mean, you've got Jack White, Norah Jones in terms of like your modern musicians, but then like Alan Jackson is on here, who's old school country. I'll talk about Sheryl Crow later because I'm gonna go on a rant. But there's a lot of different Jacob Dylan coming out of nowhere. He's like the Wallflowers. Y'all ain't heard of us in like 10 years, but fuck it, I'm gonna knock it out of the park with this song. I happen to think that this, unfortunately, in the way that country music is set up nowadays, where if you're not talking about your bootcut jeans or drinking a beer in your pickup, no one's listening to you. I hearken for the days when somebody could talk about all the heartbreak that they're living through with a twangy, sliding guitar behind them. This did apparently do all right on the charts, but I really think that this should have completely kicked the crap out of the Florida Georgia line type horse shit. But I want to get your opinions on this, guys. I'm going to start with Scotty.
This record should have been a bigger deal than it was, regardless, given the history of it and given the fact that it was songs that were penned by Williams that were never recorded, which means probably the greatest country musician to have ever lived had unreleased songs somewhere. It should have definitely been eye-opening to not even just country fans, but fans of music, because Hank Williams wrote some of the most important music of the 20th century. And as you said, Jacob Dylan kills it. Jack White absolutely kills it. Even Bob Dylan does a track on this that's absolutely outstanding. Front to back, this is one of my top 5 compilations of all time.
That's fucking dope to hear, man. I love to hear that shit. Johnny, lay it on me. What did you think of these lost notebooks of one Hank Williams?
This whole microcosm here between the story of the albums, the artists involved in bringing the songs to life, and just like my own upbringing in music. Like I was raised on 90s country music, and then I didn't know a Hank Williams song until I heard James Gibson come out to it at Ring of Honor. Like that was the first time I ever heard Hank Williams, and then literally just traced backwards after that. So already was like grew up on Alan Jackson, loved Alan Jackson, and then pop open this compilation. It's the first thing I see, and immediately I'm just like, well, there's just all sorts of parts of my history and coming across music that's colliding here. So right away we're off to the races here. In terms of Bob Dylan, second track, banger. Norah Jones, who I hadn't thought about in a long time, but it was like somebody I thought about every now and then, is like, where did this massively talented person just disappear to? And then so great to bring that up. Seeing Lucinda Williams' name pop up on there was rad. First of all, Jacob Dylan, I think about the Wallflowers all the time, and I have since 2003, and you're going to be getting a Wallflowers record sometime on this show. Just so you know, and it's going to be something between 2000 and 2010. And you're going to be like, I didn't even know this existed. But and then wrapping it up with Sermon on the Mount by Merle Haggard. Just what a way to wrap things up. You knew it had to be one of the golden oldies to wrap this thing up, and I think that was the best pick he could have made. What a compilation. I'm shocked this was even after stumbling across Hank Williams in 2006 or whatever it was, way after I should have. You would have thought I would have at least known about it then, but no, nothing. So thanks for bringing it to my attention, and plenty more to add to a playlist now.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy how I remember hearing about this in Rolling Stone, but it wasn't a feature. I remember hearing about this in other magazines, and it wasn't a big feature. It's well, how do you have a record with Jack White, Norah Jones, Bob Dylan are all putting tracks on this, and you're just like, oh yeah, there you go. This is something. Craziness to me. Kirby, what are your feelings on this one?
Well, I had a lot of fun listening to it, and then Googling where are they now every time somebody who I hadn't heard of in a while. Vince Gill, I remember from when I was a kid, being like a country chart topper. He's got a really recognizable voice. Levon Helm, the name rang a bell, but I couldn't place it. And I was shocked to discover how huge this person is. You know, it's Levon Helm from the band, The Weight, and all that. And I guess he must have recorded this track mere months before he passed away, because the record released in 2011 and he passed away at the beginning of 2012. So it's like super cool. Like this is a really cool piece of history. And it at the same time feels like this sort of super collaboration, you know, in the same way that all these Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson super team ups, so, you know, Highwaymen sort of team ups, where like it has that sort of feel to it. But I gotta spend more time on this record, I think, because I was so caught up in like the novelty of it, and you know, I sort of felt the buzz that I guess it should have gotten if it didn't get, because you know, I was so wrapped up in what a cool thing it is that it exists. I got to go back and listen to the songs more. A couple stood out for me, especially the Norah Jones track. But I got to spend more time on it. Oh yeah, I love the horns on the Sheryl Crow one too. Loved hearing horn in that.
I was gonna say, I think you make an excellent point that it is very easy to get caught up on the novelty of a record like this, and it just in general, that's how it'll work with like anything that has the ability or has like it can fall into novelty. But I think, like you said, the music is there, the songs are there. There are good songs on this record, and like every one is a good one. I'm going to go on my Sheryl Crow rant right now. I think Angel Mine will forever be in my top 2 love songs ever written, with the top one being my wedding song. Angel Mine, I think, is the most beautiful love song with guitars ever written. You're never going to convince me otherwise. This is like all the emotions come out. And so, in saying that, Sheryl Crow can kiss my ass for ever putting out fucking pop songs. She should be making beautiful, beautiful country music, so that, in general, fuck the Soak Up the Sun horseshit. Fuck your fucking duets with fucking Detroit rap rockers turned fucking country stars that were fucking born in the rich side of Detroit. Fuck you for all that shit. Play country music because you do it beautifully and wonderfully. That one specifically stood out for me. You could just hear all the love Jack White put into the song he did. Norah Jones is How Many Times Have You Broken My Heart is just beautiful stuff. Look at Lucinda Williams, So Happy I Found You. Again, everything is going to stick out for me, but I'm always going to put this record over. A, because I love Hank Williams, and B, because goddamn the songs are there and everybody adds their little nuggets. Let's go into ratings. Scotty, what did we rate this one?
9 out of 10 sad slide guitars.
Kirby.
I'm going to go 8 out of 10 drinkable feelings.
Very, very, very pertinent with Hank. Johnny, what did you rate this one?
8 out of 10. Dirt pairs of jeans covered in dirt with holes in them that the manufacturer did not cut in there.
Legitimately fucked up jeans that you only get from manual labor. I dig it. I gave this one 8 out of 10. All right, hold on. Let's get this. 8 out of 10 times I screamed, God, why did you take Hank at age 29 and not Kid Rock? The world would have been a better place.
Very
Just
true.
saying. Just saying. Well, that's going to conclude this episode. Let's go around and let everybody know where they can find you on social media. Starting with you, Johnny Torres.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TheConceptJT.
Scotty.
Twitter and Instagram at SC Ceriti.
Kirby.
Twitter at Kirby Wackerman. I'm not on the Instagram train yet. I got to figure that out yet. I'm an old man. Give me a break.
Get on that Instagram. Show the world your lovely pictures of you headbutting motherfuckers. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at King of Chaos NYC. And make sure to check out the Year One Wrestling Podcast. Right now, you're watching this on the Year One Podcast YouTube channel. And if you did dig podcasts, there we go. Finally got it out. If you dig podcasts about wrestling, you might as well be checking it out. You can find it literally any place that you get a podcast. Seriously, I've made sure of that. So check that out and then follow the social media at Year1 Pod. And then check out my new web store, shirts on pre-order at kingofchaosnyc.bigcartel.com. For myself, for Scotty, for Johnny, and Kirby, who will definitely be back because his choice was awesome and his insight was great, and he definitely won in terms of the ratings this week. For all of us, I want to say take care, guys, and thank you for tuning in to Dude, Have You Heard This?